How can someone like you work from home? Uneducated people like you are the worst. My mother-in-law always talks about me and finds a way to denigrating me. She doesn't know that the $1,500 she receives every month comes from my earnings. And to be humiliated like this in public, I'll give her what she deserves. My name is Jessica, and I am 35 years old. I have been married for 5 years, and we don't have children. We have been busy with our work and have decided to have children when we become more settled down. My husband frequently works overtime while I work from home and have more time to spare. Working from home is not unusual in this day and age, but my mother-in-law, who lives in a closed world in the countryside, does not seem to understand what working from home is. No matter how many times I explained to her that there are many people who work from home nowadays, she doesn't seem to get it. My mother-in-law thinks I am jobless scum who doesn't have children and lives a lazy life on her husband's earnings. I have been sending money to my in-laws every month, but she seems to think that it all comes from her son's income. There is no way he can send them $1,500 every month from his income alone. Jobless scum itself refers to people between the ages of 15 and 34, and I, unfortunately, did not fall into that category. I guess my mother-in-law just wanted to use that word to sound cool or something. She always brags about the fact that she graduated from college and worked as a nurse, and every time she does so, she looks down on me as I never went to college. I feel so bad for my precious son to be married to such a poorly educated, jobless scum. I've worked hard as a nurse and supported my husband by doing housework and childcare too. Nowadays, it's normal to have a dual income, isn't it? You don't have children. You don't take care of the house. And you spend your days doing nothing. I have told you many times that I work too. Nowadays, there are many jobs where you can work anywhere, as long as you have a computer and an internet connection. There is no way someone like you can work with a computer. Uneducated people like you are the worst. My mother-in-law always attacks me with such words to denigrate my personality when my husband and father-in-law are not around. The nearest store is a 15-minute walk from my house, but it's only a 3-minute walk to my parents-in-law's house. Even if I wanted to keep my distance from them, I live so close that I am physically unable to do so. She calls me every day and forces me to do household chores at her house. When I don't answer the phone, she forces her way into my home, ransacks my house, and complains about various things. And so, I have no choice but to go to my parents-in-law's house again. It's downpouring rain today, so my steps are heavier than usual. As soon as I arrived at my mother-in-law's house, she started talking fast and furious. I want you to organize the shed and wash the bedding at the laundromat today. And when you're done, make sure you have dinner ready for me. You're a lazy, jobless scum anyway. Why don't you help people out a little? I couldn't stand it and retorted, It's pouring today. Maybe we should clean the shed and wash the bedding on a nicer day. I've got a lot of work to do today, so I'll just leave you some food for dinner and go home. What work? I looked in your house the other day, but you were just playing on your computer. Oh, so you peeked into her house? It's my son's house. What's wrong with his mother peeking in? Just get on with it. I'm off to lunch with a friend for my work days. I'll be back in the evening. So get it done by then. With that, my mother-in-law gets into her shiny new car that I just washed yesterday. No, that's actually my car. A stay-at-home, jobless scum doesn't need a car. I'll use it for you. And she treats it as if it were her own. Of course, I was the one who washed the car. She knew it was going to rain today, so she made me wash the car yesterday on purpose. When my mother-in-law moved the car, it ran into a puddle in front of our house and got all dirty in no time. My father-in-law is working as a rehired worker after his retirement, so there is no one to stop her misbehavior during the daytime. I thought about speaking to my mother-in-law, but if I did so, I might be harassed, verbally abused, or told off to the neighbors for something that never happened. I thought about talking to my husband about it many times as well, but I didn't want to worry him because he was exhausted from his hard work. I cleaned the shed and took the bedding to the laundromat in the rain. After that, I continued cooking dinner with wet hair and clothes on. I was told to make at least 5 side dishes and a soup, so I cooked while shivering in the cold. Since I was not allowed to turn on the heating while my mother-in-law was away, my body was chilled to the core. When I finished everything, it was already past 3 p.m. I tried to leave before my mother-in-law came home, but she came back at the wrong time. Oh no! I see you're soaking wet. My mother-in-law was grinning at my miserable appearance. Then she moved her eyes to the dishes on the table. Don't tell me that you cooked in such an outfit. It's so dirty. I can't possibly eat this. Saying that, she threw all the food into the trash. The soup in the pot on the stove was swept into the sink. I was out of words at how she treated me. I can't eat something made in such a dirty way. You jobless scums don't even care about your appearance, do you? Wash the dishes and get out of here. I'll get something delivered today, my mother-in-law said, and went into her room. As I was washing the dishes, my eyes filled with tears of sadness and frustration that she had thrown away the food I had taken the trouble to cook. One day, after the same kind of days, there was a town association gathering at my in-laws' house, so naturally, it was up to me to prepare for it. I was busy in the kitchen, cooking and preparing drinks, and my husband suggested to help. But of course, my mother-in-law stopped him, saying, "It's an occasional day off for you, so you should sit down and enjoy." She tugged on her son's hand and pulled him away from me. Then, just as I thought she was coming back into the kitchen, she said in my ear, "Don't eat with us, you nitwit scum. You embarrass me and my son," and turned her back on me. I let her harass me and stayed in the kitchen, doing the dishes just as I was told. Both my mother-in-law and the town association members seemed to have had a lot of drinks. I could hear my mother-in-law laughing in a good mood from the living room. My husband and father-in-law, who love children, were playing with the children from our neighborhood in the yard. When I went to the living room to collect the empty plates, I was approached by the town chairman.
Why don't you sit down and eat a little?
To that, I couldn't dare to say. My mother-in-law told me not to eat with everyone. So I smiled affectionately and just said, "Thank you very much for your offer." As I was collecting up the empty plates, thinking it felt nice to have somebody who cared, I accidentally knocked over the chairman's cup. The cup, which was full of alcohol, had the chairman's clothes soaked. "I'm sorry." The chairman laughed it off and forgave me. My mother-in-law, who never moved a step from her seat, looked at me from afar, amused. After that, my mother-in-law was overly cheerful and continued to talk ill of me and brag happily. "I am sorry for causing you so much trouble. Such an unfriendly wife. She's been playing on the computer every day instead of doing housework. I have to go to her house every day to take care of her because her house is a disaster. I took the trouble to cook for her, but she threw all of it in the trash. I guess food for youngsters are different from what we eat. The other day, I had to go to a laundromat to wash her bedding in the rain. The bedding got wet, and she ended up yelling at me. I thought she was going to hit me or something. On the other hand, my son sends me money every month. He's a really good son, you know." My mother-in-law, perhaps in a high state of mind due to alcohol, was talking in a loud voice that echoed throughout the room. I was getting angry at my mother-in-law's continuous lies. I had reached the end of my patience. I could forgive her if she only harassed me, but I couldn't forgive her for telling the whole town about what never happened and being such a drama queen. I would not let her continue to do as she pleased. Excuse me, but who is that you're talking about? Everything you just said is what you have been doing to me, isn't it?" "Hey, what are you talking about? I would never do such a thing." I guess my mother-in-law didn't expect me to talk back, so she said back with her widened eyes, "When did you ever do housework, saying that you're going out with your former colleagues every day?" "No way! I don't have time for that. I have my hands full with housework." "You know, I know what you're up to. I know that you've been seeing a man outside the house." My mother-in-law was obviously flustered by my sudden revelation. "What? What nonsense?" My mother-in-law might have thought she was calmly denying it, but her voice was trembling. At such a commotion, my husband and father-in-law also came back from the yard, where they were playing with the children. Now is the time for payback. People around us were also looking at me with curiosity, so it was time for me to be rebellious.
"Mom, what's wrong? Why are you shouting?"
My panicked husband asked my mother-in-law. "Jessica is terrible. She says I'm meeting a man outside the house. She doesn't even have any proof." She looked at her son with clinging eyes. All eyes were on me at once. I took this opportunity to reveal my evidence. The drive recorder in my car had a clear recording of you flirting with a young unknown man. "What? A drive recorder? What's that?" You didn't know? A drive recorder records audio from inside the car. I just happened to find out during the car inspection. If you want, I have the data, so I can play it here for you. "What? Who's going to trust you, a jobless scum, living on your husband's money?"
"How can you say such a thing to Jessica?"
My father-in-law interrupted the argument between my mother-in-law and me with an angry look on his face. However, my mother-in-law was not to be outdone by my father-in-law. Because it's true, isn't it? Jessica just stays at home and does nothing but lazily plays around on the computer, she exclaimed, but her face turned pale when she noticed the cold stares of the people around her. Come to think of it, I saw the wife frequently visiting her mother-in-law's house. Maybe it's true that she's forced to do housework. I also saw the mother often get in the car and leave.
So, is it true what the wife said? That the mother meets men outside the house?
I heard whispering from all around us. What? This is all a lie. Don't listen to her, my mother-in-law shouted desperately, trying to make excuses. Then my husband sighed and said to my mother-in-law,
Mom, Jessica is not a jobless scum. She is a designer, and she makes much more money than I do.
What? What do you mean? That's not possible. All she does is play on the computer every day. My mother-in-law panicked. Yes, in fact, I am a designer. After graduating from a design company and working there for several years, I took the plunge and started my own business when I got married. At first, it was just pocket money, but recently, I have been blessed with clients and have been able to make much more money than when I was working at the company. When my mother-in-law asked me what I do, I thought she wouldn't understand if I said I was a designer. So I explained that I draw pictures. Maybe she didn't understand because she had no idea about working from home in the first place. Still, I didn't expect her to treat me so badly. But it doesn't matter now. I don't expect my mother-in-law to understand what I do.
You know what? Even the $1,500 I send home every month comes out of Jessica's earnings.
My father-in-law was astonished at the confession.
What? $1,500? I've never heard about you sending money to us every month. Don't tell me you've been spending it without telling Dad.
No, that's not true. The money is for, well, helping people. I donate it to people in need. My mother-in-law's excuses no longer made any sense. Oh, please, stop trying. The money was lost in pocket money for your boyfriend, wasn't it? I know that because it was properly recorded. When I added that, my mother-in-law glared at me with a face like a devil. But behind her, my father-in-law, who had an even more terrifying satanic expression, had his face red with anger.
You. Not only did you make fun of Jessica, but you even cheated on me and mocked me.
No, I wasn't. Jessica lied. I never cheated on you. Believe me. My mother-in-law is clinging to my father-in-law's leg and sobbing.
Let's see what you have to say after we listen to the recording of the evidence. Jessica, can you play it here?
Don't, please! My mother-in-law was about to go crazy.
Shut up. Is there something you don't want me to hear?
My mother-in-law finally gave up and became quiet. I solemnly put my phone on the table and pressed the play button. There was a perfect recording of a young man's voice and my mother-in-law's sweet purring voice. We could clearly hear her giving money to the man as he begged her, and then she was excitedly trying to bring him to a motel. My husband was nauseous, and the neighbors looked uncomfortable, but their eyes were sparkling with curiosity. It was basically a living nightmare. In the midst of it all, I was nodding my head at the joy of finally being able to expose my mother-in-law's evil deeds to the light of day. I pressed the stop button at my father-in-law's instruction without playing the recorded data of the evidence until the end. My father-in-law quietly opened his mouth.
Apologize to Jessica and get out of here. I don't want to see your face,
he told my mother-in-law. In the end, my mother-in-law glared at me and left without apologizing to anyone.
I'm sorry, Jessica. I'm sorry I've been out working all the time and didn't notice a thing.
My father-in-law apologized to me in that way. He had nothing to apologize for. My mother-in-law's harassment had been carefully planned so that no one would ever find out about it. If I hadn't said anything, nobody would have known. You have done nothing wrong. You're like a real father to me. I put my hand on his shoulder.
Thank you. I'll handle everything else. I won't let her do whatever she wants anymore. I'm sorry to all of you for causing so much trouble.
After saying that, my father-in-law followed my mother-in-law out of the house. The neighbors who were there seemed relieved to see the end of the drama. They poured me a drink and comforted me. I told them everything that had happened, and I was able to have a very pleasant time. A few months later, my father-in-law and mother-in-law ended up getting a divorce. My mother-in-law's affair partner was a stripper, and my mother-in-law fell for his pillow talk and spent not only the money but also the savings for after retirement. After that, my mother-in-law has been living in a cheap apartment in a neighboring state with nowhere to go, working part-time at a concession stand to pay off the alimony to my father-in-law and the savings she had spent. But why is she working part-time at a concession stand? Why not at a hospital where she could work as a nurse? I asked my father-in-law.
Did she say something about being a nurse? She just worked in a store that hospital workers use. She's always been the type to make herself look bigger. He sighed. I now live comfortably at my own pace, with no one interrupting my work or forcing me to do unreasonable housework. I visit my in-laws once every 3 days to do chores, and my father-in-law is very appreciative each time. My husband is much more settled in his work now, and we found out I was pregnant, just as he was relieved from his busy work schedule. My husband, my father-in-law, and neighbors have been very supportive, caring about my health and helping me out in various ways. I think the reason I was able to wash away everything from my past is because I am happy and content with my life now. From now on, I would like to live a peaceful and happy life while appreciating my baby, my husband, my father-in-law, and my neighbors. My mother-in-law often throws my cooked food in the trash. Human food is too good for you. I think water will do for you. It's just right for you, fatty. If you eat pork, you'll end up cannibalizing. Wait, what? That's saying too much. Shut up. As long as I have my granddaughter, I don't need you. I'm the one doing the housework and raising my granddaughter, right? Don't you talk back to me. I feel sorry for my son for marrying a woman like you. You're not good looking. You're homely and useless. You're a disgrace to have in our family. Well, there's not a soul in this house who'd consider you family anyways. My grandchildren are like my daughters, so you are nothing to them. You can go about your business as you should, like a pig, eating leftovers so as not to cause any trouble. I have no human rights and treated with irrational contempt. Why? What have I done? The sadness that had been building up in my heart reached its limit, and large tears spilled from my eyes. My name is Nicole, and I am a stay-at-home mom. I have a husband and a daughter. Good morning, Mom.
My daughter Madison is in 6th grade. I'm proud of her because she's bright, cheerful, and naturally makes everyone around her happy. Good morning, Madison. Today's lunch is your favorite. Omelets.
Wow, I'll be looking forward to it. I love your omelets more than anything in the world.
Yes, I'm glad you like it.
Oh, by the way, I got a text from Dad last night. He said he'll be home in time for my summer vacation.
That's great to hear.
I'm looking forward to that too.
Her father and my husband, Daryl, is currently overseas. He's an executive at his company, and he's extremely busy, so he only gets to come home once or twice a year. Madison and my husband don't see each other very often, since the assignment was made shortly after Madison was born. Even so, Madison is very attached to my husband, and he also cares about her a lot.
Well, I'm off to school now.
Have a good day. I'm sure she misses her father very much. Even so, Madison never whines about it, and always smiles, and makes me feel at ease. I am the one more worried about my husband's absence, and sometimes gets nervous about things. Seeing me like that, I think Madison is acting stout-heartedly because of her concern for me. A smart and kind husband, and a good-natured, strong-willed daughter. Thankfully, with these two people in my life, I can say that my life is smooth sailing. Except for one person, my mother-in-law. After sending Madison off, I was cleaning the room when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find my mother-in-law, Amy, standing there smiling.
Hi, Nicole. How are you today?
Hello, I'm doing fine. I answered the door with a smile and gave a casual answer. My mother-in-law is a frequent visitor, and she does all the housework to the point where I have nothing to do left.
I'll do the cleaning so you can sit down, Nicole.
She smiles at me, but I don't miss it. Despite her kind words, I never miss the mean glint in her eyes. Before I got married, I thought that my mother-in-law was a wonderful woman. She was graceful, smart, and kind. I even admired her. But after I gave birth to Madison, I started to notice some disturbing signs. When I was confused about raising a child for the first time, and my husband's absence, she would approach me to give me advice. But then she would enter our home more and more uninhibitedly. Then she began to take care of Madison excessively. In addition to doing housework, she pushed me away to attend her open houses and acted as if she were Madison's parent. I could see that at the root of this behavior was the idea that my mother-in-law, my husband, and my daughter were family by blood. But I, her daughter-in-law, was a stranger, and she wanted to ostracize me. I could also see that she wanted to raise Madison in her own way.
Hey, Nicole, I'll cook dinner here tonight so that 3 of us, including Madison, can eat together.
My mother-in-law, who had just finished cleaning the house, was delighted to make such a suggestion. No, it's okay. I'll cook. I feel bad for always making you cook. Not wanting to ingratiate myself further with my mother-in-law, I tried to gently turn down her suggestion. But my mother-in-law said,
"Don't worry about it. Madison likes my cooking anyways."
She stubbornly refuses to take a step back. to let Madison think that her cooking is delicious, and to feel like she was the one raising Madison, not me. That was what she wanted to do. These days went on, and I became stressed out. I was afraid that Madison would sense the discord between my mother-in-law and me, and she would get stressed out too. Would Madison eventually be inspired by her grandmother to shun me? I couldn't help but feel anxious at the thought. At first, I tried to bear it on my own, but then I felt I was reaching my limit. I wanted to talk to my husband about it. I felt uncomfortable contacting my husband, who is a busy man, and I'm sure he wouldn't be happy to hear me bad-mouthing his mother. But I knew that my mother-in-law was probably taking advantage of the fact that my husband knew nothing about it, and that my husband was the only one who could help me with this situation. So I turned on my laptop and reached out to my husband via video call.
Nicole, what's wrong? Did anything happen?
On the screen was my husband, still looking at me tenderly. I'm sorry for the sudden call.
It's okay. Don't hesitate to let me know if you need any help.
When I saw my husband's smile, I felt relieved, and my suppressed feelings began to overflow, and I told him everything my mother-in-law had done. My husband listened to me quietly, nodding his head.
My mother was treated like that by her mother-in-law, my grandmother. I guess she thinks that you, the next generation, deserve to be treated the same way she was treated.
I see.
I know it must be hard for you, and I'm worried about how it's going to affect Madison. But I'll protect you guys.
I feel a little better now that my husband understands what I was going through. Somewhere along the line, my mother-in-law started bringing gifts when she visited our house. Nicole, here's some muffins I got from the store in front of the station, where there's always a long wait line. Thank you very much. I'll prepare some tea now. I have no idea what she's thinking. It's so creepy. I've been eating a lot less lately. You can have some for me if you like. I see. Well, I'll have some if you say so. This exchange went on almost every day. She also started following me around and restraining me even more than before, asking me to watch TV together and do some baking. So I lost time for my daily walking and stretching routines. In the end, my weight increased more and more because of all the sweets and lack of exercise. And my mother-in-law's attitude changed drastically when she saw me getting fatter and fatter. One day, my mother-in-law came to our house, and as soon as she saw me, the first thing she said to me was, "Nicole, you've been gaining some weight lately, haven't you?" She looked at me coldly, as if she was looking at something dirty. Yes, I was thinking that too. I've got to go on a diet. When I replied with a friendly smile, my mother-in-law's tone of voice turned sharp and fierce. You need to lose weight now. I can't have Daryl have a wife in that shape. Even Madison wouldn't want to have with such a sloppy mother. While I was stunned, my mother-in-law strode into the kitchen and looked at the fried rice I was making for lunch. And the next moment, she threw it into the trash. What? I didn't have time to process what had just happened. You shouldn't be eating such calorie-dense food. I stood there for a while in surprise. Then my mother-in-law's attitude escalated. One night at dinner, I looked at the table with all the food my mother-in-law had prepared, and I was mortified. While my mother-in-law and Madison were sitting down to a sumptuous steak. I was sitting down to a bowl of yogurt. What is this about? You're on a diet, aren't you? My mother-in-law said mockingly. But what are you complaining about? I'm just trying to be considerate. No, it's nothing. I'm sorry. You're taking it too easy. You're a housewife. You don't even do your own housework. That's why you're fat. I couldn't believe my ears. It was my mother-in-law who wanted to do all the housework. Maybe I spoiled you too much. I'll have you move around from now on. But even after that, I was not allowed to do housework, but was forced to do hard exercises, such as jogging 5 miles and doing 1,000 sit-ups every day. As I was getting drained from the hard workout, I realized my mother-in-law's terrible plan. She had deliberately made me gain weight. Now she wanted to force me to lose weight and put a strain on my body. How could she do such a cruel thing to me, no matter how much she disliked me? I felt so unbearable that I cried quietly by myself in the bathroom at night. Then, suddenly, Madison came. I didn't want to worry Madison, so I hastily wiped away my tears. Are you being bullied by Grandma? No, that's not it. You don't have to worry about anything. Even if I hide it, this girl who is more perceptive than most will understand. Mom, I love you for always smiling and listening to what I have to say. I don't care if you've gained weight. Madison. When I heard those words, I had an epiphany. I felt foolish for fearing that Madison might be influenced by her grandmother. She's already grown up enough to be able to make good decisions on her own. I had to be strong too. I am her mother. I must be strong and protect Madison. I can't let my mother-in-law keep letting me down. That was when I had an idea. A few days later, it was Madison's 12th birthday. As usual, my mother-in-law took care of the party and didn't let me do anything. Though I was worried that she would harass me again, I thought she wouldn't make it a big deal on such a big day like Madison's birthday. But I was naive. It seems that my mother-in-law is really rotten at heart. My mother-in-law's order of roast pork for 2 was for 2 people, and there was none for me. Mother, what in the world? I was so disgusted that I couldn't speak. My mother-in-law was sipping a bottle of fine wine all to herself. I ordered a delivery for my family. You're just the wife, not my family. She smiled wickedly at me. That's just going too far. My mother-in-law glared at me and put a glass of water in front of me. Shut up. The food is too good for a person like you. I think water will do for you. It's just right for you, fatty. If you eat pork, you'll end up cannibalizing. I glared back at my mother-in-law. I'm family too. I'm Madison's mother. My mother-in-law seemed to flinch a little, but then she quickly reasserted herself and yelled at me. As long as I have my granddaughter, I don't need you. I'm the one doing the housework and raising my granddaughter, right? Don't you talk back to me. At that moment, Madison, who had been silently listening to the conversation between my mother-in-law and me, started to cry. It's my fault, isn't it? You two don't get along with each other because of my birth. Madison burst into tears. Madison! Madison's distress seemed to make even my mother-in-law panic a little, but she immediately turned to me and said, It's your fault. You made Madison cry. How can you do this to her? And blamed me. And that's when it happened.
Mom, that's enough.
My husband's voice echoed through the room. Daryl? My mother-in-law looked around in panic. It was understandable that she was surprised to suddenly hear the voice of her son, who was supposed to be abroad. He's here. I lifted up my laptop, which was in a corner of the room, and held it in front of my mother-in-law. On the screen was my husband. I had recently decided to secretly connect a video call with my husband whenever I was with my mother-in-law. That was the idea I came up with to combat her.
Mom, Madison is Nicole and my child. One of us isn't the only parent. We're family.
That's not true.
I know how badly your mother-in-law treated you, and I'm grateful that you raised me the way you did despite that. But you know what, Mom? It's not about the past. It's about the future. It's about how Madison is going to grow up. I won't forgive you if you make Madison sad.
But...
If you can't understand that, then stay out of our family.
Even my mother-in-law, who is like a heartless devil, seems to have a weakness for her beloved son. With that, she plodded her way home. Dad... Madison stares intently at the computer screen.
Happy birthday, Madison. I'm sorry I can't be there with you.
Oh, Dad, you are so cool. Thanks, Dad.
I'm glad to hear that. Your mother and I will take care of you no matter what.
I was so happy to see them like that. I thought to myself that I was truly blessed to have such a wonderful husband and daughter. But then I came back to reality. My husband has seen me so fat. In the past, I have always tried to avoid having my husband see my body when we used video calls. But today, I let my guard down and exposed my entire body. I'm sorry I've gained so much weight. I quickly apologized. My husband was stunned, but immediately burst out laughing and said,
Don't worry about it. You may be chubby, but you're still you, and nothing has changed.
Thank you. That's so nice of you. But I'm going to try to lose weight. The room was filled with laughter of the three of us. After that, my husband distanced himself from his mother, who never changed her mind. Not only did she not get her grandchild, her son abandoned her. I'm sure she will spend the rest of her life alone and lonely. Now I live with my husband, who has returned, and my daughter, who is now in junior high school. Needless to say, Madison's face is brighter than ever now that she can live with her father she loves so much. I believe that the family environment created by adults has a great impact on children. I want to be a strong mother and work together with my husband to keep Madison's smile alive.